When my older sister Jung Yu snatched the token from the scholar, my heart did a total double take. In that split second it hit me. She's a regressor too, just like me. Thinking back to our past life, Jung Yu didn't even hesitate. She went straight for the general's mansion jade pendant. And that scholar's sachet? She tossed it to me with such performative disdain. Back then she played the White Lotus and told me, "Little sister, I don't mean anything by this. It's just that the general's second son, while not the heir, is still born of the legal wife. If you marry him, you'll struggle to survive, so I really think this scholar is the one who's actually perfect for you." And yet here she is again, pulling that same arrogant face as she says, "Weiwan, the Xie family is dirt poor, but I've always adored you. So I'm graciously gifting you this superior marriage into the general's mansion." The madam heard this and her teacup shattered on the floor. Her expression shifted as she hurriedly called for Yu. I watched as Jung Yu gripped that sachet tight, leaned into the madam's ear, and whispered something. The madam's face went from stormy to relieved, though her eyes remained sharp as she asked, "Yu, have you really thought this through? What if something goes wrong in the future? If it really does go wrong, don't I still have you there to back me up, mother?" Jung Yu leaned her head on the madam's shoulder, acting like a total brat. After a long silence, the madam finally gritted her teeth and said, "Fine, I'll do as you say." That's how the marriages for me and Jung Yu were decided. But when it came to our dowries, the madam used the excuse that the general's family is rich and the Xie family is poor, literally gutting my already pathetic dowry to pad Jung Yu's haul. Honestly, I didn't care. They weren't exactly wrong. The general's mansion is loaded, while the Xie family is broke. I just wonder if Jung Yu's miles of red wedding silk will be enough to satisfy the Xie family's bottomless greed. It was the same in our past life. The madam laid out the tokens before us to choose. But I knew then, as I know now, I never had a real choice. Jung Yu grabbed the jade pendant without a second thought, tossing the sachet at me like trash. She got the lavish wedding and the high-status life, while I was sent off in a tiny sedan chair to marry Xie Yan. Our fates were supposed to match our rankings. She, the high and mighty noble wife, and me, the invisible wife of a low-ranking 6th-grade official. Who would have guessed that on the very day Jung Yu married into the general's estate, Huo Yao received emergency military orders, and immediately marched off to war with his father and brother, only the entire Huo bloodline to be wiped out on the battlefield. Jung Yu was stuck playing the grieving widow just 3 months into her marriage. She spent her days sobbing and acting out, desperate to move back to her parents' house. Her mother, playing the doting parent, tried to calm her down by promising that once she finished the 3-year mourning period for Huo Yao, she'd find a way to take her back. But even I knew that was literally impossible. The Huo family was legendary for their loyalty. If my father actually let Jung Yu leave, wouldn't he get absolutely dragged by his peers? Plus, my eldest brother just started his career in the imperial court, and during such a high-stakes time, no matter how much my father favored Jung Yu, he'd never throw his own son's future under the bus for her. Jung Yu barely survived 2 years in the general's estate, spending every waking moment being dramatic and threatening to end it all. The last time it happened, the Grand Matriarch summoned my father and his wife to her quarters, pointed at Jung Yu, and said with a chilling tone, "Take Yu back. Why should her bright future be buried in this place?" My father was shook, immediately dropping to his knees to beg for mercy. Because the Grand Matriarch isn't just the matriarch of the general's estate. She's the emperor's own aunt, the great Princess Zhao Hua. Once they were back in their rooms, my father, absolutely livid, gave Jung Yu a slap to the face and hissed, "Jung Yu, even if you're going to die, you'll do it in this general's estate." Jung Yu was seething with resentment, especially after she heard my father mention that my husband, Xie Yan, had been appointed as an imperial academician, with a future that's looking seriously bright. Her jealousy reached an all-time high. She demanded to see me, and my mother personally came to beg me to go talk some sense into her. I had no choice but to head back there. Upon arriving at the general's estate, I paid my respects to the Grand Matriarch first. She held my hands side and told me to take good care of my sister. I gave the green light for her to leave, but your father, the Grand Matriarch, patted my hand. He's just a bit too cautious. Walking toward Jung Yu's quarters, I couldn't help but think, the Grand Matriarch is clearly high status and super kind, so what on earth is Jung Yu still not satisfied with? If my in-laws at the Shea house were even half as chill as her, I'd be living in a dream. Turns out, Jung Yu kept obsessing over our wedding choice from back in the day, and she literally went off the deep end. She kept muttering that since she was the legitimate daughter, she was the one who deserved the title and the high society status. In her final moments of pure unhinged resentment, Jung Yu stabbed me with a gold hairpin before taking her own life. So when she realized she'd transmigrated back, she was thirsty to steal the Shia family engagement that originally belonged to me. Well, good for her because now I don't even have to dream anymore. The luxe, soft life, pampered existence I wanted? Yeah, it's finally mine. The first day of the month was meant to be the wedding day for both Jung daughters, a date the madam handpicked for Jung Guiyu, but so that I could get married off before Huo Yao headed to the front lines. Jung Guiyu begged the madam for ages, and she finally agreed to let us have our wedding ceremony on the same day. I was carried into the general's estate amidst the sound of wedding trumpets. But before I could even greet the in-laws, the sound of chaotic galloping stomped right through the front gates. Following a gentle voice, the maids hurried me into the bridal chamber to sit tight. After waiting a bit, a pair of black military boots stopped right in front of me, and immediately I heard Huo Yao's voice. Gui Wan, there's an emergency order from the military. I have to deploy immediately. Huo Yao stood there in his full armor, radiating main character energy, his eyes filled with genuine guilt as he looked at me. He said, I've truly wronged you. I was slightly shook. I hadn't realized Huo Yao was this drop-dead gorgeous. I softly called him my lord and signaled for the servants to get out. I pulled the protective amulet I'd prepped from my sleeve and rushed to say, My lord, I had a nightmare last night. I dreamt that on our wedding day, you received a decree and rushed off to Yanbei. The supervisor, desperate for credit, pushed you to take risks, ordering you and your uncle to chase the enemy. But you all got ambushed, suffered injuries, got trapped by a blizzard, and lost your supply lines. As Huo Yao listened, the shock in his eyes shifted into deep, serious concern. Because the situation in Yanbei was top-secret intel, definitely not something a sheltered noble lady like me should know. I gritted my teeth, held out the amulet with both hands and said, My lord, I've been raised in the inner chambers, and I don't know anything about war, so I hoped it was just a nightmare. But now, I really hope you'll take this as a warning. Please be careful on your campaign. Your Gui Wan will be waiting. Huo Yao faced my words, but this time he went completely silent. The talisman sat in my palm, trembling in sync with my shaky hand. I could have just stood by and done nothing. There was absolutely no need to risk my neck like this. I could have just let Erlang Huo go off to war, played the role of the virtuous widow, mourning, at the general's estate. The old matriarch would have treated me like gold. My father and the legal mother would have showered me with respect, and the emperor would even granted me a title of honor. This so-called solitary life was actually a total slay for someone like me, Zheng Guiwan. But I grew up listening to the epic legacy of the Huo army. Back in the day, my grandfather did business near the border and was saved by the heroic old General Huo from a barbarian invasion. My concubine mother would pat my back to sleep, constantly recounting the legendary feats of the Huo family. Zheng Guiwan, I might just be a woman, but I know exactly how to spell integrity. I couldn't bear to see the old matriarch, who once forced my mother's family to add 2 extra chests of dowry just because she couldn't stand seeing me treated unfairly, end up with her hair turned white overnight from grief. Nor could I stand the thought of the little child who called me second aunt and warned me to watch my step getting off the sedan, ending up fatherless and uncle-less. And I definitely couldn't sit back and watch thousands of soldiers lose their lives. After a long silence, a hand with defined knuckles slowly reached out and took the talisman from mine. Huo Yao only uttered 2 simple heavy words. Thank you. After Huo Yao marched off to war, I didn't waste a single second. My mother's family runs businesses across the north and south, and they have several shops in Shengjing. I took the token my concubine mother left me, went to the shop closest to the general's estate, and left a message asking my grandfather to send a reliable manager to meet me. I expected to wait weeks, but to my surprise, a lady showed up the very next day. She clasped her hands and introduced herself. I am the head manager of the Sun family, Sun Nuo. Though she was dressed in men's robes, she wasn't trying to pull a Mulan and fool anyone. Sun Nuo bowed to me. All the Sun family's assets in Shengjing are currently under my management. If the second lady trusts me, just give the order. My eyes lit up. I had no idea she was already running the show in Shengjing this early. In my past life, this cousin and I had quite the history, starting from the 3rd year of my marriage to Xie Dian. I had my maid pawn my jewelry, but my cousin caught her and recognized the pieces as belonging to the Sun family. She showed up with a stack of banknotes, low-key worried if I was going through some financial crisis. I didn't want her stressing, so as I was about to feed her a lie, Madame Xie heard the gossip and stormed in to tear me a new one, calling me a lowly bitch for allegedly messing around with a merchant family. My cousin was fuming and walked out, but not before low-key tucking that stack of cash under the tea tray. Right in front of Madame Xie, I made my maid return the money and said, Mother is right, our Xie family can't be out here using merchant money. Xie Yian had just been appointed as a royal scholar and was desperate for cash to bribe his way up the ladder. His little sister was engaged to a rich family and needed a massive dowry, yet here I was, handing the money right back. Madame Xie was so triggered she got sick, grabbed a tea bowl, and cracked my head open with it. Then played the victim by clutching her chest, forcing me to serve her bedside all night while wounded. No matter how much she tried to break me, I knew I couldn't run to my cousin for help ever again. Thankfully, the old matriarch didn't share Madame Xi's petty bias. I mentioned my mother was from the Sun clan, and she actually smiled and praised the quality of their jade, even inviting me to go huoping with her next time. Thinking about that, I stopped hesitating. I bowed deeply to Sun Nuo and begged my cousin for her help. Sun Nuo and I spent half an hour plotting in secret. As she left, she gripped the money bag and looked at me, worried. "Gui Wan, are you sure about this? This is your entire life savings." I gave her a firm nod. Ever since I dropped that truth bomb on Huo Yao, this whole thing has been a massive gamble anyway. If I'm going down this road, why not go all in? Sun Nuo's expression turned dead serious. Old General Huo did the Sun family a favor back in the day. "Don't worry, Gui Wan, I won't let you down." The look in Sun Nuo's eyes now was pure respect. Once I saw her off, I hopped into the carriage to head back to the Zheng estate. Today was my formal visit back home with Zheng Guiyu, and the old matriarch had prepped a massive haul of gifts for me. Zheng Guiyu hit me with that signature snark. "You're acting like such a high-status lady now, coming home at this hour." She clocked the two overstuffed carriages behind me. Her eyes flashed with pure jealousy, though she hid it behind a smug smirk. She kept the act up. "Can't blame you, though. Your husband left for the front lines on your wedding night. I bet you haven't even seen his face yet, have you? The battlefield is brutal, and if he happens to..." She suddenly covered her mouth, acting all shook. "Oh, my bad. Don't hold it against me, little sister. If you know you're talking trash, why not just get up and apologize already?" Zheng Guiyu's face went pale, and she snapped back fuming. "Zheng Guiwan, just because you married into an elite house, you think you're too good for your elder sister now? Such disrespectful words from an elder sister. Do you have no respect for the general's estate?" Zheng Guiyu was shook, pointing a finger at me in a fit of rage. "Look at that smug, delusional face of yours. You're just as cheap and low-class as your mother." Before I could even snap back, the servant girl gifted to me by the matriarch stepped forward and barked. "Madam Xi, watch your mouth." This servant girl was sent directly from the palace, wearing the official palace sash at her waist. Zheng Guiyu didn't dare pull any more stunts, only shooting me a hateful glare. We sipped our tea in silence until, a moment later, Father walked in with Shi Yan. One look was enough to see that Father was absolutely beaming. I knew Shi Yan had charmed Father just like he did in my past life. A guy who topped 3 consecutive exams wasn't about to be all talk and no game, right? I thought to myself, everything is playing out exactly like it did before the regression. Zheng Guiyu, feeling herself, played the loving sister card and sat next to me, whispering so only I could hear. "Little sister, your brother-in-law is not only talented and handsome, but he's also obsessed with me. On our wedding night, he promised he'd never take a concubine." I just nodded. I actually believed her. Xie Yan told me that exact same line in my past life, and he actually kept his word until the day I died. I looked at Zheng Guiyu, deciding not to spoil the plot twist. This was her choice, wasn't it? Zheng Guiyu wasn't feeling my vibe, but since Father and Xie Yan had already sat down, she kept her mouth shut to avoid getting caught. She toned it down, I kept my cool, and everything went exactly as I expected. My biological mother is gone, so I have zero emotional ties to the Zheng estate. After lunch I excused myself. Neither Father nor my stepmother tried to make me stay, just told the butler to see me out. As the butler walked me to the exit, I glanced back at the Zheng estate, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. Not far away, a small carriage sat waiting, its mysterious presence signaling a major plot twist that caught my eye. I took another look, and right then, the wind whipped the curtains back, revealing the stunning flower-like face of a young man staring intently at the Zheng estate. "Well, isn't this interesting?" I chuckled, turned around, and hopped into my general's estate carriage to start a new chapter of my life. For the next 2 months, besides hanging out with Sun Nuo, I stayed at the general's estate, keeping the matriarch company. My life was busy. I personally asked the matriarch to teach me how to manage the estate, since my stepmother never planned on me marrying into a powerful clan and never bothered to train me. The matriarch was low-key thrilled by my request. She said, "Fine, even though you aren't the eldest daughter-in-law, having skills to protect yourself is always a flex." So she had me train alongside Huo Dufang, Huo Yao's younger sister, meticulously teaching us how to handle accounts, manage staff, and master the art of winning people over. While Huo Dufang was struggling and over it, I was soaking up every second of this glow-up opportunity. When the matriarch was tired, my sister-in-law would have me shadow her, giving me major hands-on experience that proved to be a total win. Dufang was honestly shook by my progress, and we actually started to bond. Whenever we had downtime, she'd offer to teach me how to ride, and I was down for the lesson. Who knew I was a natural? After only 3 days, I was already trotting around on my own. Even Huo Yao's notoriously difficult horse was suddenly acting like a total angel for me. Huo Dufang was visibly stunned. With a mischievous laugh, she teased, "Second sister-in-law, you and second brother are a match made in heaven. Even his horse is obsessed with you." After teasing me, she dropped the real question. "Did you read the letter second brother sent you yet?" She looked like she was waiting for some major tea. I told her I hadn't received any letter. Dufang immediately looked shook and dragged me back to my room, muttering, "How is that even possible? He specifically told me to look after you. Why on earth wouldn't he write to you? Maybe it arrived while you were out this morning." Pushed into my room by Dufang, I saw an unopened letter sitting on the table. Dufang giggled while reading the inscription, "To my beloved wife." She did a dramatic shrug and shoved the letter into my hands. "Second brother is so cringe, have fun reading it, second sister-in-law." She closed the door behind her, clearly knowing her vibe was no longer needed. I hesitated for a sec before opening it, but one sentence on the paper made me stop cold. "The dream has come true." I took a deep breath, trying to process the absolute whirlwind of emotions hitting me. He was low-key telling me that my visions were now reality. In that moment, I was feeling all the feels, and honestly, I was kind of hyped. News hit the capital that the Huo army was trapped in Yanbei. Zheng Yu immediately pulled up, acting like she was there to console me, but my maid told her I was too sick with grief to see anyone. She looked genuinely pressed and caught off guard. She put on a fake crying performance in front of the matriarch. Realizing I wasn't coming out, she left looking disappointed but also weirdly smug. In a carrier pigeon letter, Huo Dufang wrote, "Second sister-in-law, I can't believe you two are actually sisters. How can someone be such a snake? I've truly had my eyes opened." I didn't bother writing a reply. I just folded the letter and tied it to the pigeon's leg. That was our prearranged signal that all was well. I was less than 100 miles from Yanbei by now, my heart radiating pure main character energy. I knew exactly how high stakes this mission was, and the risks involved. Once the news arrived from Huo Yao, I immediately went to see the matriarch. I had braced myself for the worst. If he hadn't believed me, I'd have been stuck, but thank God, he actually trusted me. That little sliver of hope set my heart on fire. So, I gathered every ounce of courage I had to face the matriarch. After just 2 months together, I'd already started looking at her like my own grandmother. I knelt down and laid it all out for her the same way I had for Huo Yao. Finally, I handed over Huo Yao's letter as the ultimate receipt. The matriarch stayed silent for a long time, clearly weighing the tea. The tension in the room was thick, but finally she spoke up, looking genuinely worried. "But if you go on this trip and something happens to you, how am I supposed to answer to Lang? And what do I tell your father?" I managed a smile and took her trembling cold hands in mine. "Grandmother, I'm going because I'm down to ride or die for my husband. As for my father, he never gave a damn about the life of an illegitimate daughter like me anyway. I'm a concubine-born daughter. My mother passed early, and my father and the madame have always treated me like a disposable object. But since I married here, you've treated me with kindness. Dufang has been good to me, and so has my sister-in-law. Even the little nephew doesn't forget to save me a piece of his snacks." The matriarch teared up, her heart breaking for me. "Oh, my poor child, those small kindnesses aren't worth you throwing your life away. If someone gifts me a quince, I repay them with a precious jade. How could I walk away when my husband is risking his head for this wild dream? If I back down now, I wouldn't be worthy of him, or the thousands of soldiers at his command." The matriarch suddenly stood me up and sat me in her own chair. Her expression was so intense, I was shook. The matriarch then caught me off guard by bowing to me, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. "Grandmother," she held my hands. "Guiwan, you go on this mission as a savior of the Huo family. Wait for your safe return. I will personally petition for you to be granted the title of county princess. From now on, no one will dare look down on you again, not even your own parents. And if Lang ever treats you poorly, I give you my word, you two are allowed to divorce." I was absolutely floored. My heart was pounding out of my chest. This isn't some derivative title handed down by a husband, but a position that's strictly mine. It means even if I leave this place one day, I'll still have my own status secured. The Grand Matriarch said firmly, "Guiwan, go." Her words gave me all the confidence and strength I needed. The Grand Matriarch hand-picked the elite guards from the estate to escort me north. We blended into the Sun family trade caravan to fly under the radar. Little did I know, the one leading the caravan was Sun Nuo. She was rocking men's robes and boldly declared, "Without you, sis, did you think I'd be able to manage the Sun family's trade operations? Plus, if we crush this mission, who knows? You might just land yourself the role of imperial merchant. When that happens, make sure the general's wife puts in a good word for me." We locked eyes and laughed. "Deal." That kind of trust gave me all the momentum I needed for the road ahead. We headed north through the biting wind and freezing fog. The landscape was a desolate, silver-white blur of mountains and rivers. All along the way, more Sun family caravans joined our ranks, packing extra grain and supplies. By the time we hit the Yanbei Pass, the caravan was massive. It stretched on so far, you couldn't see the beginning or the end. We'd been traveling for 4 days, and every step was a struggle. The carriage wheels kept getting stuck in the thick snow. But we knew the dawn of victory was close, and we weren't about to back down now. Facing the blizzard, I did some deep thinking, and finally gave the order, switch to sleds. The guards sprang into action, quickly relaying my orders down the line. The carriages we brought from the capital had been specially modded with clever, hidden mechanisms meant for snowy terrain. All we had to do was pop off the wheels and swap them out, and boom, sleds that could glide over the snow in a flash. The guards carefully strapped the sleds to the horses, triple-checking the gear to ensure everything stayed put. The only issue was that the sleds held way less than the wagons, so we'd have to make 7 or 8 trips to move all the supplies. To reach our final destination, we had no choice but to do the hard work and shuttle the cargo in rounds. I brought Huo Yao's horse along, but as we entered the snow zone, it got super restless. I spent the whole time petting it and whispering, trying to calm the beast down. Just then, Sun Nuo handed me a rice cake and said softly, "Eat something." I reached out to take it, but suddenly, a shadow lunged at me out of nowhere. It was a total emergency, but thank God the Huo family guards were on me like glue. They pulled their blades and struck instantly. The man's hand was severed and he was left. My heart literally dropped when I realized they were just displaced refugees. The icy wind carried their muffled sobs. I looked back and saw a group of gaunt men and women huddled together in the barren woods, looking absolutely hopeless. It was honestly heartbreaking. Sun Nuo sighed. The situation inside the city isn't any better. Feeling heavy, I turned to the captain of the guard beside me. "Do we still have food left?" The captain replied, trying to be the voice of reason. "We do, but even if you give them food, they won't survive this winter." His voice was laced with worry. "Besides, refugees are unpredictable. If they hurt you." I shook my head, cutting him off. "There's only about a dozen of them. After what happened before, they wouldn't dare. Just give them the food. If they can live one more day, that's one more day gained." The captain couldn't sway me, so he begrudgingly tossed the supplies over. The refugees scrambled forward the second they saw the food. Once the 30 sleds were fully loaded, I hopped onto Huo Niao's horse and pushed forward. Tan Nuo stayed behind to wait for the empty sleds to return. This was the plan I'd hashed out with Tan Nuo, and the whole reason I was here. The stakes were sky high. Failure was not an option. The father and son of the Huo family had taken all the elite soldiers to the front lines, leaving the remaining guards unfamiliar with the Huo army's protocols. At this point, only someone from the Huo household could even get near a heavily fortified city. With the old Madame Frail, my sister-in-law pregnant, and the youngest sister unmarried, I, the second daughter-in-law, became the only candidate left to shoulder this heavy burden. The final stretch took an hour, with the snow-covered landscape stretching out like it had no end. Even though I was wrapped in a premium fur cloak and wearing the warmest boots, the freezing wind still had me shivering. My delicate skin was stinging from the biting cold. My hands were swollen and red from frostbite. Every muscle in my arms and legs was screaming, and every move felt like a struggle. It was a total test of my willpower. On the horse, I kept repeating to myself over and over, "Zheng Guiwan, just one more push, and from here on out, no one will ever get to control your life again. You're going to be free and you'll call your own shots." Because my mother was a merchant's daughter, and because I was a concubine's child, the world looked down on me, but I was never going to just roll over and take it. If the world tries to chain me down, I'll just shatter those links one by one. That internal fire was the only thing keeping me going through the snowstorm. Suddenly the captain yelled out in relief, "Second, madam, we've arrived." My spirits surged as I looked up. The destination was right in front of me. My heart did a little flip. The massive, towering city walls were finally in sight. It looked like a sleeping black dragon, with only red banners snapping in the wind and snow, when suddenly an arrow whizzed past my horse's legs. The captain guarding the gate shouted, "Who goes there?" The atmosphere was immediately giving high-stress vibes. I took the military banner from the chief guard's and unfurled it. It was an exact match for the one flying on the wall. I shouted back, "I am Huo Yao's wife." Zheng Guiwan, my voice was absolute main character energy, firm and unshakable. The soldiers on the wall heard me, but they kept their arrows aimed at us, refusing to lower their guard. I patted my horse to keep it calm and yelled, "Go get Huo Yao to verify my identity. I'll be right here waiting." The arrows were finally lowered. Looks like someone went to give him the tea. I let out a breath, bundled my fur cloak tighter, and faced the biting wind, forcing myself to hold it together. A young man in armor appeared on the battlements. My heart started pounding. It could be him. He looked down, I looked up through the snow, and we locked eyes from a distance, silently confirming it was us. I was low-key stressing, wondering if he'd actually recognize me out here. Getting sent away would be NBD, but getting shot by mistake, that would be a total disaster. Just as I was spiraling, the command to open the gate rang out, and I finally exhaled. Only then did I notice my lambskin gloves were worn thin, and my palms were bleeding. I must have been gripping the reins way too hard in my panic. Huo Yao walked up to my horse, grabbed the reins, and looked at my pale face with concern. "Why are you even here? Are you holding up okay?" I nodded and replied, "I'm here to deliver supplies." He followed my gaze as the guards pulled back the tarp, revealing a massive amount of grain. The blizzard in Yanbei had grounded all the carrier pigeons, and the messengers only carried military intel, so he had no clue about my mission. Huo Yao's eyes were filled with emotion, looking at me with total respect. He said, "Thank you." Huo Yao gestured, and a few soldiers stepped forward to inspect the grain, checking the goods to make sure they were the real deal. He looked a bit awkward for a second. "It's a military protocol. Please don't take it personally. Let me help you down." I nodded, and he took my hand, carefully helping me off the horse with the gentlest touch. My feet hit the ground, and my legs were practically frozen stiff. I frowned and told Huo Yao there are about 80 more carts blocked up at Snow Mountain Pass. "My lord, you need to send an escort with sleds to get them. As for my guards, they're beyond exhausted. Let them get some rest." The man nodded. "I will handle everything." He told me to go into the city to rest. I didn't object, and after thanking him, I joined the guards as we entered. I was led by a soldier into a spacious room where a suit of majestic armor hung on the south wall, flanked by a spear and a sword. They hung there in silence, practically spilling the tea on their own history. My fingers lightly traced the cracks on the armor, a wave of emotion hitting me. It was like I could literally feel the echoes of the past. I'd been out in the wild for so long that I'd completely lost track of time. A soldier told me it was the 23rd day of the 12th lunar month. In my past life, this was the exact day Huo Yao suffered his fatal wounds. The date of that battlefield nightmare is burned into my soul. At 16, he rode out with his father. He commanded 800 soldiers to take on an army of 2,300. It was a massive flex. By 17, he was promoted to commander. That same year, he chased the Namman tribes for 300 miles. His reputation was iconic. His future was looking so bright. It was giving main character energy. But then came his 19th year, right after he got married. A greedy supervisor forced him and his older brother to pursue the enemy, leading to his brother being captured. He fought through his own injuries just to retrieve his brother's body from the enemy. A legend in the making, absolutely destroyed at Yanyun City. The cruelty of fate is honestly heartbreaking. Old General Huo's hair turned white overnight, yet he still stood his ground to protect the kingdom. With no supplies and no reinforcements, there was only the raw courage of the Nanliang troops and the people of the 13 cities of Yanbei. The Huo army eventually held Yanyun, but the cost was devastating. Half their forces were wiped out, their commander fell, and the city was left empty. So many parents forced to bury their children. It was a total tragedy. The emotional damage was real. But now that nightmare stays exactly where it belongs, in the past. I've officially rewritten destiny, and I can finally stop carrying that weight. I slumped into a chair, and before I knew it, I was out cold. I only woke up when Huo Yao picked me up to tuck me into bed. Someone had just lit a charcoal brazier in the room to keep it warm. I reflexively grabbed his hand, instinctively whispering, "My lord, you're awake." Huo Yao unbuckled his arm. He smirked, giving off total main character energy with a boyish charm. "Are you hungry? I brought you some grilled meat." He said that while carefully unwrapping a parchment parcel. I swiped this from the patriarch's stash. Food's been majorly scarce lately, so getting real meat is a total flex. I couldn't help but stress. Food shortages, really? I had no clue how much we needed, so I just told my cousin to drop all our cash on sleds and supplies. Huo Yao sat down by the bed and grabbed my hand. "It's not enough to end this war, babe. But it's enough to hold us down until the Imperial Court finally stops ghosting us with the rations." Well, that's a relief. That's when I realized how close he was. I could literally feel his hot breath on my face. His gaze was burning, and the tension was so thick it was giving emotional damage, until he suddenly let out a defeated sigh. "This isn't good." Huo Yao pulled out some ointment, took my hand, and gently started dabbing it on my cuts. "Guiwan, get some rest, and in a few days, take the trade caravan back to Shengjing." That was the plan anyway. I'm not exactly helping here, and I don't want to be a distraction to my man. He tucked me into the blankets and held my hand, comforting me like I was a total kid. "We aren't far from the Bai camp, and even if they try some late-night raiding, I'm here, so just go back to sleep." All that traveling had me absolutely drained. I wanted to spill the tea about the family drama, but the second my head hit the pillow, I was out cold. In a hazy dream, I felt someone tucking a stray hair behind my ear and heard a soft sigh. You've lost so much weight. We didn't stay in Yanyun City for long. We rested up for a few days, and as soon as the snow cleared, we hit the road home. Wo Yao saw us out of the city gates. Once we were a distance away, Sun Nuo looked back at his silhouette standing tall and said, Grandpa can finally chill now. I had no idea what she was talking about. She gave a little smile. Grandpa isn't about chasing clout. Back in the day, he was in a pinch and had to marry his sister off as a concubine. The family business blew up later, but it's a shame your mom didn't live to see it. Without Grandpa's backing, how do you think a woman could have become a lead manager? His only condition was that you'd look out for me. I had no idea about any of this in my past life. Today Captain Huo actually called me cousin. He's head over heels for you. Look at how he showed up with wagons full of supplies just for you. The return journey was much smoother, and as we headed south, the roads were way easier to travel. The trip there took a month, but getting back to Shengjing only took 20 days. As soon as I returned to the estate, the maid reported that Zheng Guiyu was there again. It seems like she really doesn't know how to quit. I didn't see her immediately. I changed into fresh robes before heading to the hall to meet her. But this time, she didn't have that same radiant main character energy she used to have. Judging by the timeline, she's probably reaching her breaking point. Married for 4 months, yet that scholar husband of hers spends every night reading by lamplight, never once stepping foot in her room. They're still not intimate at all. Seeing me appear, she still tried to act all haughty. I don't need to say much about how things are in Yanbei. Wait for your brother-in-law to get his promotion, and I'll have him take care of you. I calmly poured myself a cup of tea. Is that so? Then many thanks, sister. My utter lack of interest clearly disappointed her. She shook her head and sighed. Father won't bring you back home. The Huo family is loyal. You're just destined to rot away in the Huo estate. I tilted my head slightly, intentionally showing off the wealth radiating from the gold hairpin I'd pinned in my hair. I'm not lacking in gourmet food or fancy robes, so why is sister still wearing those outdated accessories? Can't afford anything new? Zheng Guiyu's expression shifted. She's loaded, but she can't stand her sister-in-law's constant demands, and she even made a scene in front of Xie Yian. Xie Yian shut his sister down right in front of everyone, but immediately after, he acted all disappointed with Zheng Guiyu. It wasn't until she bought him jewelry to apologize that Xie Yian finally went to her room to make nice. Thinking about this, she gritted her teeth and gave a cold smirk. Sister, just keep enjoying your luxury while you can. I'm afraid before long, never mind gold hairpins, you'll be lucky to even wear the coarsest rags. I looked at her with a icy smile. What exactly do you mean by that, sister? Her chest heaved as she leaned in close to say every word. You still don't know, do you? Huo Yao is dead at Yanyun City. I wasn't bothered by her claims and just raised an eyebrow. You really think that dream of yours is the truth? Did that dream not tell you why Xie Yian won't lay a finger on you? Her eyes widened. The situation in Yanbei is set, and I don't mind admitting that she isn't the only one who underwent a regression. I intentionally provoked her, let out a wicked laugh and said, the answer is something I won't tell you. Go figure it out yourself. The morning sun hit just right, the breeze was warm, and we finally reached the courtyard. Huo Dufang had everything set up. She dragged me to the tavern before dawn broke just to catch the Huo army's triumphant return. I looked out the window, and the young man on horseback seemed to sense it, locking eyes with me. Huo Dufang was totally extra, shaking me and shoving 7 or 8 sachets into my hands, rushing me to throw one. I laughed as I tossed one out toward Huo Yao, but my aim was tragic and it went way off course. Just as the sachet was about to vanish into the crowd, Huo Yao casually whipped his horse rein and snatched it out of the air. He looked up to flash me a smile, only to get grabbed by Huo Delong. Seeing that, Huo Dufang was wheezing with laughter as we headed back to the manor. Huo Dufang was all giggles talking to the matriarch about her fiancé, bragging that she was just glad he could ride a horse. My sister-in-law got up to prep the banquet, and when I tried to help, she just pushed me back. Guiwan, go back to your room and put on something new. My maids dragged out my wedding robes, spent an hour primping me until I looked exactly like I did on my wedding day, and finally shoved a round fan into my hand. Once the maids dipped, a pair of black boots stopped right in front of me, and his voice was soft. Guiwan, I'm home. 3 days later, the Huo family threw a feast, and Zheng Guiyu strutted in with Xie Yian, looking like she'd just won the lottery. Right then, I knew Xie Yian had finally uprooted the seeds of doubt I'd planted in her head. In a secluded spot, she started popping off, trying to mock me. Even if Huo Yao survived, he's just a military guy. Xie Yian already passed the imperial exams, and I'm carrying his heir. She rubbed her belly, her eyes filled with Delulu fantasies. He doesn't want to touch you, but don't think I'm just like you. Zheng Guiwan, in this life, I'm the one destined for the glitz and glamour. Looking at her, I just felt pure pity. In my previous life, the greatest blessing was that he never touched me. But this time, just to kill the rumors, Xie Yan actually had to sleep with her. I wasn't here for Zheng Guiyu's toxic drama, so I just turned and walked away. 9 months later, Zheng Guiyu popped out a son. My stepmother wanted me to send a gift, so I told my maid to just follow standard protocol. Stepmother glared at me, but I spoke up before she could start her complaining. Don't worry, mother, it'll be enough. After all, the general's manor is loaded, or so you always told me. She was absolutely seething, staring me down, but after all, when His Majesty handed out the rewards, not only did Feng Zunuo get promoted, but I was even granted the title of county princess. The old matriarch personally went to the palace, leveraging her status to secure that favor for me. So while the madam used to love pushing around the secondary daughter, she didn't dare pull that disrespectful energy with me anymore. But I truly didn't expect that person to start drama during the full-month celebration, right in front of me and the madam. There was Zheng Guiyu, holding her son, looking smug and ready to flex. Suddenly Wang Chun, looking as pretty as a delicate flower, burst into the room and dropped to his knees by the bed. The servants were absolutely shook, and the whole room went into a frenzy. Zheng Guiyu screamed at the top of her lungs. Wang Chun, how dare you storm into my bedroom like this? What is your game? Hearing that hysterical tone, it was clear she had been tolerating Xie Yan's cousin to her absolute limit. In my past life, this whole mess had me feeling some type of way too. Supporting his mother and sister was one thing, but why was I also paying for a distant relative like Wang Chun? Xie Yan was literally dropping more cash on him than on his own sister. It wasn't until that dirty secret slapped me in the face that I finally clocked what was really going on. That whole "I'll never take a concubine" act? Total gaslighting, it was all a lie. I heard Wang Chun sobbing and wailing, "Cousin-in-law, please just let us be," crying harder than the woman who actually gave birth. "He's already got a child from you, can't you just give him back to me?" Zheng Guiyu was completely stunned, looking lost as she asked, "What do you mean?" The madam, quick with the damage control, slapped Wang Chun immediately. "What kind of lunatic is this? Guards, drag him out now." Wang Chun was still calling her cousin-in-law. Zheng Guiyu let out a piercing high-pitched scream. "Stop. What did you just say?" "What do you mean?" The madam rushed to hold her back, trying to calm the chaos. "Guiyu, don't lose your cool. This guy is obviously Delulu. Mom will have him tossed out right now." But Zheng Guiyu wasn't hearing it. Every bit of coldness and distance she'd felt until now suddenly clicked into place. "Tell me clearly." Right then Xie Yan rushed in, and the room was already an absolute dumpster fire. Wang Chun was being held down, while Zheng Guiyu was clawing at him like her life depended on it. Huo Yao immediately pulled me behind him for cover, asking with concern, "Guiwan, are you okay? How did it get this messy in here?" Seeing me shake my head, he peeked inside and looked panicked. "Is it just me, or is the person getting beaten up actually a man?" I sighed, pulled him away and whispered, "You didn't see wrong, let's just head out." After all that, I thought she'd finally demand a divorce, but the patriarch refused to let her leave. Xie Yan's future prospects are literally limitless. The madam, still showing a shred of motherly bias, whispered, "My lord, perhaps it's best if Guiyu just gets a divorce." "What do you even know about this? Women are always so soft-hearted. Because of our eldest son, a divorce is absolutely out of the question." At the mere mention of their son, the madame immediately backed down, turning to lecture Zheng Guiyu, "You've already birthed the eldest grandson, and you are the official wife. Who could possibly shake your position?" Zheng Guiyu was shaking with pure rage, shrieking in disbelief, "Mother, Xie Yan is acting like this. Don't you see how pathetic he is?" "Shut your mouth," my father snapped, just like in my past life, slapping her across the face. "Even if you have to die, you will die as a member of the Xie family." After my parents left, Zheng Guiyu suddenly started laughing. "Zheng Guiwan, do you find me pathetic?" Her eyes were flooded with confusion and pure emotional damage. I clearly chose a different path this time, so why did I end up right back at square one? That's a question I can't even answer myself. In my past life, I discovered that nasty little secret too, and my entire dowry was drained in just 3 short years. I'm not like her. I have nowhere else to run. After seeing it with my own eyes, I decided to take them down with me, even going as far as plotting how to poison them. That's why, after my regression, I told her the cold, hard truth. "Zheng Guiyu, the Xie household isn't a place worth sacrificing your life for." As I turned to leave, she started laughing and crying behind me, screaming, "You're feeling pretty smug right now, aren't you? Zheng Guiwan, you stole everything from me. I won't let you have the last laugh." Later I heard that Zheng Guiyu actually went back to the Xie mansion, and not only were the couple happily reunited, she even emptied her pockets to fund the Xie family's daughters. With Xie Yan topping 3 consecutive exams, Zheng Guiyu got so full of herself that she totally lost the plot, even demanding that I serve her tea right in front of the crown princess. The crown princess scoffed, slamming her teacup down, Your ego is massive, isn't it? Daring to order my sister-in-law to serve you? Zheng Guiyu's face went pale as a sheet. She scrambled to apologize, but was still punished to kneel in the garden, holding a tea tray for hours. Honestly, it was the ultimate public humiliation. Before leaving, she glared at me and gave me a cold, bitter smile. Zheng Guiwan, your little moment of triumph won't last long. Before long, news of the border crisis hit. The second prince staged a coup, and the entire Huo family was dragged into the palace. Zheng Guiyu, looking bougie as hell, stopped right in front of me. She flexed her new jewels and smirked. Little sister, look at that. I'm the one who stayed winning. While secretly cutting my restraints, I asked the question that's always lived rent-free in my head. Sister, why have you always been so obsessed with ruining my life? Zheng Guiyu paused, then snapped. You're just a secondary daughter. The fact that you're living better than me is your biggest sin. I wasn't even going to entertain her, but Huo Yufang, standing right next to me, wasn't having it. A first-rank noble lady acting like this? You're really something else. Right on cue, the sound of steel clashing erupted outside the palace hall. Zheng Guiyu grabbed a maid and hissed, "What the hell is going on out there?" The maid shook and stammered. The Huo army broke into the palace to protect the throne. They're wiping out the rebels right now. Zheng Guiyu was absolutely shook, shaking her head like a lunatic. No way, the Huo army was deployed out of the city ages ago. Huo Yufang ripped off her restraints and stood up. My second brother was butchering enemies left and right at 17. Did you really think you could pull this off now? Unable to cope with the reality check, Zheng Guiyu grabbed her hair and screamed, "I lost to you in both lives. I'm not accepting this." She stumbled toward me, then suddenly raised a dagger, howling, "I want to choose again. Next time, I'm never picking wrong." Before her blade could even touch me, I slammed her hand against the pillar with all my might. Zheng Guiyu let out a blood-curdling scream. I leaned in and whispered, "Sister, after I married into the general's manor, I realized there's so much more to life than your petty drama." I wiped the blood off my hands and walked away, not even glancing back. It all started with her, but it ends on my terms. Sister, this time, I'm the one calling the shots. Soon after, the Xie family was executed and exiled, and my father was stripped of his title. When they came to stir up trouble, I held Huo Yao back and told Safu to take them through the back door. Seeing him still fuming, I chuckled and hooked my finger around his. My hubby is a legendary high-ranking general. Who would actually dare talk trash about me? Huo Yao's ears turned bright red, and he promised, "I'll keep working harder so the Emperor Gao grants you the first-rank title you deserve." Back home, looking at the warmth of this life, Huo Yao and grandmother wishing you eternal health and vitality. Slay.